It's perfect. It's all perfect. So we're talking today about wrestling with the angel. Anybody ever find themselves between a rock and a hard place? Yeah. Recently, perhaps? Any time in your life where it just seemed like no matter what you tried to do or didn't do, it was sideways, upside down, and just plain wrong? Ever get laryngitis 3 days before you're supposed to speak? You know, I love proving the principles of my talks as I'm writing them. It makes it so much more believable for all of you. So if I pause to sit down, it's nothing serious. So, you know, the Bible of my childhood was a rather scary place. And that may be true for some of the rest of you. It may not have been explained in a way that made sense to us, or perhaps it just defied logic, which was my biggest problem with the way the stories were told. But, you know, I have a different perspective now, and so I revisit it from time to time, and that's what I did for this week's talk, Wrestling with the Angel. We're going to talk about Jacob. And Jacob, you may or may not recall, was the twin brother of Esau, and Esau was the elder, and thereby should have inherited the rights to his father's fiefdom, so to speak. But Jacob tricked their father and earned and received the blessing, giving him the birthright, which, needless to say, pissed Esau off terribly. So life goes on, and Jacob is married and has servants and all kinds of things, and he's on the move because he was very put upon by his father-in-law, and he decided to leave. And so he's on the road to Canaan, and he finds out that Esau, his brother whom he hasn't seen in years, is heading towards him with an army of 400 ready to kill him. So as he reaches the end of daylight on his day of travel, he goes ahead and sends his family and his servants and all of his possessions across the river Jabbok, and he camps down for the night, and he's there by himself in the dark without anything, scared to death. Did I mention it was dark? It's always dark when these things happen. And all night long, he wrestles with a man. Now this man, in other verses, other than Genesis, is referred to as an angel, and sometimes it's referred to as the Esau spirit, so to speak. But at any rate, Jacob wrestles. He doesn't really care who it's with. He just wrestles all night long until dawn. And when dawn arrives, he tells the angel that he wants to stop wrestling, but not until the angel gives him a blessing. And he wants to know the angel's name. And the angel says, "What do you want to know my name for? What's your name?" "Jacob." "It's not anymore. Your name is now Israel." So the name Jacob has been translated various ways, but one of its translations is the grabber, as in he who takes, sort of like the birthright story. And Israel is translated to be he who prevails, one who has struggled with man and God and has prevailed. And the angel gives Jacob his blessing and goes on his way. So Jacob names the place where this happened Peniel. And Peniel has a very specific metaphysical meaning. It's the inner realization of the divine presence, of having met God face to face, and of having succeeded through prayer in attaining the divine favor and blessing that have been sought. At Peniel, Jacob's name was changed to Israel because, as it was explained to him, "Thou hast fought with God and with men and hast prevailed." had power with. To prevail is to have power with. So what happens when we return to that place of finding God within or in any situation is that we join back up with our true power. So what's happening here is that Esau represents this man of the world, the hunter, right? The warrior. And the world rewards victory. The world wants to see winners. The world wants to see somebody strong and powerful, and that's Esau's whole self-image. His whole life is given to supporting his own self-image as a powerful man. Now, do you know people like this who are powerful and they spend their whole lives proving to you that they're powerful? Yeah, they throw their weight around, they come up with conflicts so they can solve them. They are the saviors that ride in on the white horses. They spend their whole lives in order to support the image they have of being powerful in the world. But that's outside power. That's transitory. That's effect. That's not cause. That's not cause. Ernest Holmes talks about wrestling. And he says, we wrestle not against outward things, but against inward ideas and beliefs. Yeah, that's what it always comes down to, doesn't it? Yeah. The power of darkness is the power of false belief and superstition. If a man can change his inner concept, his whole life will be changed. So, when we look at this story a little bit differently, what we know is that we're always in the dark when we're unconscious, right? We are operating, we're being driven by belief systems that we're not even aware of. So what the rabbis say in the Talmud, which is the Hebrew commentary on the Old Testament, what they say is that they first raise the question, how could Jacob wrestle with anybody if he was by himself? So what they decided is that he was wrestling with a piece of himself that was triggered by the idea of Esau coming for him. So that inner man in us or woman in us that believes we have to maintain an image in the world that is inauthentic, that is based on outward circumstances or power. That part of us that's driven by passion and cravings and emotions that most of the time seem to be out of our control. That part of us can get the better of us if we are not also in tune with a higher law. And the thing about Jacob was he saw himself as a godly man. He really didn't want to be that fighter in the world. That may have been how he was raised, but that's not how he wanted to see himself. And we all struggle with the difference between who we really want to be and how we seem to show up in the world. What our lives seem to dictate. The jobs we seem to find ourselves in. The relationships we get stuck in, etc., etc., etc. But the truth is that power, that wrestling, comes with the light of consciousness. It comes with our awareness. The minute we realize we are struggling, then the angel becomes our messenger. And what's the angel's message? Go within. Go deeper. Power and struggle is always, always a call for spiritual understanding. If you are fighting something, if you are struggling with something, there is some soul truth that is trying to make its way forth in you. Now the thing is, when we do decide to change something, we set our affirmations, we get our plan, we see our practitioner, we get our little checklist ready to go, we're all lined up. I'm going to lose weight, and I got my nutrition plan, and I did my shopping, and I got my affirmations on my bathroom mirror like you're supposed to, and then I eat everything in sight.